Let's move to your favorite run. Let's move to your favorite candidate of all time, John Kerry.
And he's being sarcastic. I do not much like John Kerry, but we'll
Hey,
talk.
I love the picture you chose for him, though, where he's saluting us. You
Oh,
know.
that was when he gave that lame ass fucking line at the convention. I am Lieutenant John Kerry, and I am reporting for duty. I will make America one better, one syllable at a time. Actually, I think that should have been a slogan. I'm not even fucking around. Make America better, one syllable at a time. Because then it would have been kind of a fun self-own. It would have been self-aware. Um, and anyway, I think the Bush campaign would not have known how to adapt to that because they're used to Democrats trying to play tough and thumping their chest. Say, see, I am tough. Don't call me a wimp. I'm tough. If Kerry just said, yeah, whatever. I have a weird way of speaking. Fuck off. I don't know how the Bush campaign would have countered that.
You're right, though. I remember him showing up being like, "I'm reporting for duty."
And it was so dramatic. I am reporting for duty. Okay, John. I know you've met some actors on your campaign, but you're still not one of them. Tone it down, buddy. So part of the reason I hate the Kerry campaign from '04, not only did he lose to one of the worst presidents ever and then give us yet another term of him, but I feel that he ran a very poor campaign in 2004. Partly it was predicated on the so-called generic Democrat theory, which is the idea that voters prefer a generic Democrat to a generic Republican, so find the most generic Democrat you can, who hopefully checks enough boxes for everyone that you can stomach the vote for this person. I think that this is not a legitimate election strategy, but rather a logical fallacy masquerading as an election strategy. There is no such thing
Yeah.
as a generic Democrat. There's no such thing as a generic Republican. By the time you're senior enough in politics and you have enough clout to run for the office, there's a reason that you have that clout in the first place. You have led a specific life, you've made specific decisions. You're an individual. You've got a record. You can't be a generic Democrat. That makes no sense. So, he was trying to be as boring and non-committal as possible. He tried to downplay his war record because that would make him too much of a specific person. He couldn't talk about a lot of his experiences. He couldn't really show his personality. Not that there was that much personality to begin with, but he couldn't show what he had. He couldn't emphasize his issues very much because then that would make him more specific. He wouldn't be generic enough.
Yeah, the issue thing for sure, but I do think he actually played up his war record more than you're saying.
A little bit,
Like
although that Swift Vote Veterans for Truth bullshit really did a lot of damage.
he did.
Karl Rove, yeah, the Swift Boat Veterans, that did a lot of damage because one of Bush's vulnerabilities is that he was basically a draft dodger. Because the
Right.
air
Well,
was
that's what they
under,
do. That's what Kerry they played up like this is a Vietnam vet. You know,
yeah.
like he's been in the shit before, and then the Swift Boat veterans thing, I didn't really follow it. It just seemed kind of like a ginned up partisan attack.
I mean,
That's
I
what I
saw
saw
it
of
as
it.
that, even though I was pretty young at the time. I was only 18 when this election went down, but there were people who bought into it, and I guess they were looking for an excuse to stay Republican and deny that Bush was a draft dodger. And this was something that was, I think, more relevant to older voters than it was for people our age, because I don't think we really gave a shit about Vietnam, or what people did during the Vietnam War. But yeah, Kerry, by having his war record impugned by people who supposedly served with him, and some of them did, and the reason why they talked about his record is because they were Republicans, not because they actually had anything on him. And later, they all pretty much admitted that. They're like, yeah, I'm just a Republican. That's why I said the shit I said. No truth to any of it. Um, so he didn't really counter that very effectively. He didn't emphasize any of his stances too much, so there wasn't clear why he was running. And in the debates, he kept using the line, I will do the same thing as Bush, but I will do it better. So it's sort of a recall and a replay of Wendell Willkie and Alf Landon. Oh yeah, we'll do the New Deal, don't worry, but our version will be better because we'll avoid overreach. Now, I haven't written anything down on the paper here, but trust me, my plan, phenomenal as shit. And then
Of course.
Kerry would refer people to his website over and over. But people didn't have smartphones back then. Now, if you refer somebody to a website, it might actually work. Back then, fuck no. You gotta turn on your computer, you gotta dial up, or use your DSL, or whatever you got at the time. It would take a long time to get on the internet. It actually took work. And most people are not willing to do work if it means research or homework. So, yeah. Kerry had a pretty flawed strategy. And the only reason I ranted so much about Kerry is because I know a lot of Democrats who think they actually ran a really good campaign. And I'm here to tell you, people who say that are wrong. So anyway, that's my Kerry rant.
I can sort of see that. I sometimes blame the Democratic primary voter more than anything else. Like, how the hell do you put this guy in there? The thing with the military part is, I think the problem that Kerry had with running with the military thing, the thing that undermined him was that, he had like supposedly done a protest where he threw his medal into the White House lawn, but actually didn't.
Right.
And in other words, like, him running on like, I'm a Vietnam vet doesn't quite work when you're like, wait, you did some like anti-Vietnam War stuff when you got back. I think that's one thing is because remember they've tried to attack other veteran records like Winfield Scott Hancock. It didn't work then. I guess maybe what I'm thinking is there might have been a reason why it worked on Kerry, is that it seemed kind of awkward. Also, keeping in mind too that while Kerry had voted for the Iraq War, he was one of the people who almost didn't vote for the Gulf War, Desert Storm.
Right.
Yeah, the debates about that in Congress were quite contentious, and he was one of the leaders of that contentious debate, if you will. So it was a very difficult spot to be in as well. The Iraq War is going on; it's going poorly, but opinion hasn't quite turned against it. And I think somebody like Kerry was just afraid of what Democrats have been afraid of for a long time, which is if I go against this, they'll think I'm a chicken. A big, giant chicken.
Yeah, that being said, if you think about the three major issues at the election, the agenda was set by Bush because he responded to 9/11. So you got the Patriot Act, you got the Iraq War, and then you have Bush bringing up gay marriage as the wedge issue. And on all of those, Kerry failed to create separation.
Yes, he did. The other thing that strikes me about the race is two things. Voter participation went up significantly, like 6-7 percentage points from 2000. So people got engaged, right? The electoral map was essentially the same. To which I always thought, I was like, wow, so nothing much changed, huh, guys?
Well, yeah, it was also not a very imaginative campaign. They put all their eggs in the Ohio basket for some reason. And I remember people saying, Kerry came so close, he's only 100,000 votes in Ohio away. That is not very close. 100,000 votes is quite a few at a state level.
What would you rate John Kerry?
How much are we rating stuff he did after his run and before?
I just know, right, you got to consider him as a politician in general, but his effect on the party, and I will say this for his effect on the party, as far as like presidential losers we're going over, especially in the last 30, 40 years, he still exerted influence in the party and was very important to helping Obama get the nomination in 2008.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a sore loser unlike a couple people will get to at the end. He served as Secretary of State under Obama in the second term, did fairly well. If we're factoring that in, I could go as high as a D. That being said, I actually think that whoever ran against Bush's successor in 2008 was pretty much a shoo-in, and whoever ran Bush's successor was fucked. So I don't think Kerry had a lot to do with that.
No, I'm talking about the nomination. He was one of the first he's a key reason that Obama wins the nomination fight, is what I was saying.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And Obama was in a pretty tight fight with Hillary, and without Kerry, I mean, that might have helped him get over the top. I could see a D for Kerry, although if we're just talking pure campaign, I would have to go probably F for his campaign.
Yeah, I'll go with D. Um, you make some good points negatively against Kerry's campaign for sure.
And I remember also, I remember I'd come to hate Bush by the time the 2004 election rolled around, after he lied about weapons of mass destruction, and I had supported. Well, I wasn't old enough to vote in the primary, only the general, but I had been a Howard Dean supporter. Then we get to the general, and then people told me, "Don't worry, Kerry is a really good debater." And I watched the debates. I didn't see any skill whatsoever. No charisma, no life, no passion, no ideas. And I ended up randomly going to the polling booth, not knowing who I was going to vote for. And then I saw a libertarian option, and I figured, you know what? If we have to be in the arms of someone who's completely fucking it up, we might as well limit the power that they have. So let's vote for somebody like this. I didn't know who the fuck the guy was, and I also didn't really know exactly what a libertarian was. I had a general idea, but not much of one. So I voted for a guy named Michael Badnarik. And then when I looked him up, he didn't even bother putting together a platform because he knew it was not going to win. And he basically just talked about how much he loves yoga on his website.
Great man.
Yeah, so anyway, that's how I voted in 2004 because I could not stomach Kerry or Bush. And I was, the one issue I cared the most about at that time, the Iraq War, both candidates were saying, let's keep this fucker going.
Are you talking about the douche and the turd sandwich, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was in 2004. It was a douche and turd sandwich. Actually, South Park nailed it.
Nailed it.